Hello everyone, it's Mrs. St. Clair, your math queen, where I like to keep math simple and take it back to the basics. So we're staying in this Objective 17, solving multi-step problems, dealing with ratios. We're going to start talking about recipes and Miss Rita. Let's see what Miss Rita is making. So, Miss Rita is helping her grandpa make cinnamon rolls for a party. Wow, that's pretty cool. The recipe calls for 9 cups of flour and 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. They find they only have 8 cups of flour and will have to adjust their recipe. How much cinnamon will they use with the adjustment? Now this is like our example number 1. It is very similar to the paint question. So let's ask ourselves some questions. What does the recipe call for? Right there in the text, it'll say 9 cups of flour and 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. A couple of things I want to point out before we go any further. Let's look at the abbreviation for cups. You're going to use a C. And the abbreviation for tablespoons, TBSP. So I want us to make sure we understand those measurement abbreviations because you're going to see those a lot in the real world. All right, back to the text. So, excuse me. We're going to do some unpacking. In the text, it tells me that the recipe calls for 9 cups of flour and 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. That is my first ratio. Now, I've gone into my cupboard before and I've noticed that I've not had enough of what I've needed. And that's what Rita and her grandpa's found out too. They only have 8 cups of flour. So, we need to find out how much cinnamon will we need for it to make that adjustment. And here's your question. How much cinnamon will they use with this amount of flour? So, we go down here and we ask ourselves, how much flour do they actually have? Well, I'm sorry. We've already talked about the recipe calls for 9 cups of flour and 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Now, remember we do our ratio side and our actual side, okay? So how much flour do they actually have? The text tells us 8 cups. So we're going to set up a proportion with that information in order to answer the question, how many tablespoons of cinnamon will they use? Remember, when you're setting up this proportion, ratio side, actual side, and every single time you set up a proportion, all of the information, when you unpacked, will be right there. Setting up the proportion is the hard part. Solving it is the easy part. And the awesome part about setting it up, your information's right in your text. So, our first ratio is 9 cups of flour to 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. Because my 9 cups of flour goes first in the order, that's why I have it on top. Now, because my flour is on top on the left, my flour has to be on top on the right. Please remember that your labels have to match on the top numerators and the bottom denominators. So, I know 9 cups of flour to 4 1/2 cups or 4 1/2 tablespoons of cinnamon. So then I look in my text and I see that they give me the value for flour, 8 cups. But it wants me to find the value for tablespoons for those 8 cups. So remember, cross multiply, then divide. Cross multiply, then divide. So I'm going to cross multiply number to number. 8 times 4 1/2 divided by 9. And when I solve that equation, when I solve that expression, 8 times 4.5 divided by 9 using my scientific calculator. And remember, when you have scientific calculators, put the values in from left to right, because scientific calculators, they perform the order of operations for you. So 8 times 4.5 divided by 9 will yield a response. 4 tablespoons of cinnamon is needed for 8 cups of flour. That's how I got my answer C. Take care.